All right, e-learners, if you have any questions on the homework, send them to me. We already graded it. I apologize. I didn't start the video on time. Let's take a look at the calendar. So everyone, mouths closed, look at the calendar. So now everything's good. This is what it will look like for you semester final week. I think my keyboard's going down. Here's what it's going to look like. We do have one change from what I've been saying. This Monday, right here. So next week, right, all classes. And then that following Monday, it's going to be a full day. Like it's not a half day, even though it says semester final. That Monday is a full day. You'll come to school, you'll go through period number. You go through periods 1 through 6 as normal. When you get to period 7, you're going to go to your history classroom. And you're going to stay there for the rest of the day. No student advisement. You're going to take your semester final. Okay? It's a little bit longer than 90 minutes. All of our semester finals are 90 minutes. So you have a little bit of time to prep before. Okay? Talk to your history teacher more about that. Then you're going to go home. You're going to come back on Tuesday. Tuesday through Friday is a half day. Tuesday through Friday is a half day. On Tuesday morning, you're going to show up. You're going to go to your student advisement teacher immediately. You're going to hang out there for 30 minutes. That's to get your head straight. That's to get you, hopefully, you do some last-minute cramming of material. That's to sit there quietly and say, okay, I'm going to pass my history test, or I'm going to pass my PE test, whatever, right? Then you're going to go to your PE class. I don't believe there's going to be a PE final. Okay? Then you're going to go back to your student advisement teacher for 30 minutes. You're going to, well, obviously, you probably aren't going to take a final there. But normally, you'll take a final, then you're going to rest, recuperate, eat a snack, whatever. And then you're going to go to your second final of the day, English. There will be a final for that one. Okay? 90 minutes, 90 minutes. You're going to stay there the whole 90 minutes, even if you finish in 10 minutes. Okay? At that time, it's now noon. Now it's time to go home. You go home. Wednesday morning, repeat the process. 30-minute student advisement, Latin test, 90 minutes, 90 minutes. 30 minutes student advisement, take your art final. Talk to your art teacher if you even have an art final. Okay, let me talk. Thursday comes around, repeat it one last time. Okay, you're going to show up, student advisement 30 minutes. Hopefully you're cramming for your math test. I will give you, here's how I will give my math final. It will be a multiple choice test, approximately 100 questions. Okay, it will be everything from chapter 1 all the way through chapter 7, everything. But every question will be multiple choice. Most of you took a semester final with me the last 2 years, or no, last year. Sorry, okay. We will review for the semester final here, here, and here. Right. Obviously, we'll review for the chapter 7 stuff here. We'll review chapters 1 through 3 here. And we'll review 4 through 6 here. Okay. Because remember, Monday's full day. Go back to student advisement, take a 30-minute break, go and take your science final. If you have now finished all of your finals on Thursday, guess what? I'll see you next year, right? For those of you that had an orthodontist appointment and you missed your Latin final, guess what you're doing on Friday? You're coming here, take your Latin final, then I will see you next year, okay? If you have taken all of your finals by Thursday, I will see you next year. You do not have to come to school on Friday, okay? If you do have a orthodontist or you're sick, God forbid, right? You may have a bunch of finals on this day. You will stay here until you finish your finals. Okay? When you finish your finals, you go home. Okay. Questions? Yes.
What do you mean by a whole year?
You can figure it out. You're smart. All right. Yes.
So it means he'll see us in 2020. All of your finals, and it takes you like 3 hours to do one.
You're not going to. There's only 90 minutes. There's no makeup. Or I said there's no extra time. There's 90-minute final. Right? Here's how I design. Most teachers do the same thing. When I design a test like chapter 7 test, we have 53-minute classes here. I don't write a 53-minute test. I'd have half the class not finish it. I typically write half of that time, a 25-minute test. That way, if you're average, you're done roughly around, I always talk before a test, you're roughly done about halfway to 3/4 done, and then you got the rest of the time to check your work or to sit there. For the smart kids, they're usually done, as you see, you're done in 20 to 30 minutes. For the kid that needs lots of time, and they even have on their academic plan, they need extra time, then I already have it built in. So when I give a quote 90-minute exam, I don't give a 90-minute exam. I give a 60-minute exam. That's why there's about 100 questions. You'll be able to do them in about 60 minutes if you're an average kid. If you're faster than average, you might be done in 45 minutes, half the time, not 90 minutes. If you're that kid, and we got plenty of them in here that need lots of time, they're going to be working for 90 minutes taking a math test. Good math there. Yes.
Okay, so I know that this is probably impossible, but how you're saying if like one student finishes, we have to sit there and wait for everything to
Correct.
finish? What if the whole entire class
Sorry.
finishes and we still have
Sorry.
we still have to sit in
Yeah.
the silence?
12 o'clock release until Thursday, and then you're going home.
Because other classes are also having.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then and it's hard on families as well too. Like, oh, I'm in 7th grade, I'm taking my final, but my brother's in 9th or 10th grade, and they're taking their final, they're not done. So it's just easier to say, we're just going to stay in class. When you get to college, guess what you get to do, Gabby? You get to go home immediately after that. So
Yeah.
so whenever you finish a test in college, then you leave right then and there. But you're not in college yet. Yes. No. You can bring your phone, just leave it in your locker. But no, we're not going to be listening to music. Anybody else? Semester finals. All right, I'll have this up, next week as well too. If you have any questions, I do know that you need to talk to your elective teachers, your art and your music teacher. This should say art/music. It should say elective. I don't know whether you're going to your art class or your music. You're going to one of them, right? And whether or not they give you a final is up to them. All your core classes and your Latin teacher will be given finals, guaranteed. We're all given finals. All right, copy down your homework for tonight. $38. Holy cow. That's windy. All right. Today is easy hard class. It is easy because the procedures are fairly simple. They're not that complicated. And some of you may already know some of them. It's a hard class because there's 4 coming at you really fast. For those of you that are weak on all of this stuff, you need to write this down, and it needs to immediately go to a resource card. Guaranteed, 2 weeks from now, when we take our semester final, 2.5 weeks from now, you're not going to remember how to change a percent into a fraction. You'll forget. But it's something easy that goes, oh, by the way, since I'm on the subject, semester final, you can have 2 resource cards. And a multiplication table if you need it. And it is a multiple choice test, so it's nice because the answer will be there. You'll know immediately you got it right or wrong. Yeah.
So does that mean like 2 front and back?
Yes. And by the way, remember when I gave you a practice test, it's like the real test. So you already see exactly what will be on the final. All right, here we go. Percents, fractions, decimals. It says 3 things here, but it ends up being lots of things to do. Lots of things to do. 4 basic things. Percent to a fraction, percent to a decimal, decimal to percent, and fraction to percent. Some of you already know how to do a couple of these. You've probably done all of them, but some of you have forgotten how to do some of those. Like I said, it's an easy day in the sense of any of these they're just like 2 or 3 steps, right? Each one. But there's a lot of this, and I do see some confusion. So if you write down the steps and be able to follow the steps, it's pretty simple. Here we go. Write this down, please, box 1. First, let's define percent. Per, out of, right? Centimeter means, so it's out of 100. That's what percent means. Landon's right. Other way. And you tuck in your shirt. Girls, you did a horrible job today.
They followed
He
me
is not
for
my son.
adoption.
Yes, I did. He's Jackson.
You mean,
Or abortion, I'm sorry.
let's not.
That was me.
Let's not. That's murder. All right. Percent. The amount per hundred. The symbol for it, you can almost see the 100 in the symbol, right? You got a slash, that's the 1. You got 2 little zeros, there's your 2 zeros for 100. Okay, so 40%. Right? 40 people out of 100, that's 40%. Hopefully you don't get 40 out of 100 questions correct because you just failed your semester final. All right. Since it's out of 100, we can write percent as a fraction very easily. 40 out of 100. The easiest one we're doing is changing a percent to a fraction. It's ridiculously simple. You take the number, you put it over 100, reduce the fraction, you're done. Okay, that's a percent. Turns out percents can also be written as a decimal. Okay, there's a little bit of math involved, but not much. We'll talk about that here when we get to it. All of these represent 40%. Well, clearly that's the percent symbol. 40 out of 100, well, that's what it means, out of 100. 40 over 100 is the same thing as 0.40, right? 40%. Whenever I give you your test back and I give you the fraction, you change that fraction to a decimal, and I say, what do you get? And then the kid says, oh, I got a F, right? Or they say, I got 40%. That's what they're doing. All right, so today, we're going to present the fractions into decimals. Easy? Pretty easy. Okay? So, the harder one is the converting fractions and decimals to percent. That's just slightly harder. Yeah. Always. All right, so here we go. We're going to do 4 games today. 4 games today. For those of you that need to write it down, and that's probably all of you, write it down. So we're going to convert a percent to a fraction, a percent to a fraction, a percent to a fraction, the easiest one. Okay? So 3 steps. Here are the steps. Write them down. Box 2. This is a percent to a fraction. Make sure you have that written down. Percent to a fraction. I'm going to give you all the details. You can abbreviate or write it simpler if you want to. So step 1, I take the number, 40%, and I make that number 40 the numerator. Denominator is always 100 because it's always out of 100. Step number 2, yes, you're in 8th grade. Now you're going to get some ugly percents. They're going to have decimals occasionally. Step number 2 is the new thing for 8th grade. I never gave you in 7th grade a percent that had a decimal in it. Now I will. So now we have a step number 2. It's got a decimal. We got to do something to it. It says convert it, and it doesn't say how. We'll explain it when we get there. The last step, somebody just asked me, do we need to reduce the fraction? Yep, always. Step 1, 2, 3. You take the percent, the number, that's your numerator. The denominator will always be 100. Step number 2, if there's a decimal involved, you got to get rid of the decimal. I haven't told you how to do that yet, but I will. Step number 3, you got a fraction, you got to reduce it. Step 1, 2, 3. I said this is the easiest one. Some people argue, they're not right, but mathematically, this is the easiest one to do. There's going to be no questions about this one. As long as you remember the steps. Are we good? Everybody got it written down? All right, let's see how this is done. All right, here's the steps for those who still need it. I'm going to give you a percent. Hey, 42%. It says, take the number that's your numerator, denominator is 100. Okay, that was easy. Reduce the fraction. We're done. Notice, there is a step 2. It says, if there's a decimal, no decimals here, so we don't do step 2. What goes into 42 and 100? Okay, so divide both by 2. Get 21 over 50, you're done. Easy, easy, easy. There's another one. Uh-oh, we got a decimal. Don't worry about it. It says take the number, that's your numerator, denominator is 100. So 8.2 over 100. So far, so good. You ready? To make this not a decimal, I need to move it once to the right. You move the top once to the right, guess what you do to the bottom?
Once to the right.
Move it once to the right. Whatever you do to the top, you do to the bottom. So I move the top once. What does that really mean to do to the bottom? Just means I added 0. If we move it 2 places, guess how many zeros we add? We move it 3 places, we add. There's the rule. Do I need to say that again? It's going to be 82 over 1,000. Okay, we got some work to do. To reduce the last step, but the process is still pretty simple.
41.
We move it 2 decimal places, we add 2 zeros. 3 decimal places, 3 zeros. What do you want to divide by?
41.
So 41 over 500. You know?
Thank you.
41's prime.
I had to think about that.
41's the hard one because it turns out that 51 is the one that's weird because 17 can go into 51.
Oh, no.
So 41 is the 41 and 51, the ones you just need to pause and just think about 17. All right, we good?
Yeah.
No decimal, life is good. We put the number over 100 to reduce the fraction. Simple. It might take you a bunch of steps. You might not realize that actually 4 goes into both top and bottom. It's the decimal ones. Or wait a minute. Uh-oh. What's wrong with this one?
It's higher, right?
Bigger than 100. It's okay. You're just going to get a mixed number. We still put it over, reduce the fraction.
Well, you did 1 and 1 4.
Well, let's see. What are you dividing by?
Yeah.
Agreed. So that you get 5 over, which is 1 and 1 4. Okay. Questions? Guys are awfully quiet today. All right, do box 3 all by yourself then. Anybody need help? Get started. E-learners, we good? I don't know if anybody's online or not. I didn't look. First one. Take the number, we put it over 100. Okay, that's easy. Reduce. What goes into 20 and 100?
20.
20 is the biggest. We could do 5. 5 goes in 24 times. 5 goes into 120 times. We get 4 over 20. Got to reduce by 4 now. If you reduce by 20 from the very start, 20 goes into 20 once. 20 goes into 105. We still get 1/5. You get no bonus points for doing it quicker or slower. You get bonus points for getting it right. I shouldn't say that. You get the points for getting it right. All right, we got decimal. Don't panic. Just put it over 100. How many decimal places we got to move it?
1.
So we got to add.
1, 0.
We move it 1 place, we add 1 0. We move it 2 place, we add 2 zeros. 3 place, 3 zeros. Okay? We're moving it 1 place, we add 1 0. All right. I don't know this one. I mean, obviously 5, right? I don't know if there's something bigger, but clearly 5 goes into both. So 40, what, 1 times? Is that right? 41 times?
Yeah.
And we just talked about 41 being prime, so you know you're done right there. We okay? All right, there's your easy one. Done. Questions? That's percent to a fraction, percent to a fraction, percent to a fraction. Easy. All right. I'm skipping box 4. If you did it, there's the answers. All right, next one. Percent to a decimal. Percent to a decimal. Second game, percent to a decimal. 2 steps, not 3. Step number 1. And the reason why I say that most people will claim, well, this is way easier than the previous one. It's hard because everyone says, well, this one's too easy. I don't need to memorize it. And then they forget which way to move the decimal place, and they get it wrong. Right. And Jaden gets it wrong immediately because he pointed to the right.
I know what to do. I just wasn't.
I'm just saying, I get so many kids that say that because they're like, oh, this just means moving decimal place. That's easier than doing a fraction, doing division. Ends up being harder because everyone forgets which way to move it. Okay? We're moving it twice because percents are over 100. 100, that's 2 decimal places to make it into a 1. It says drop any extra zeros. I'll show you that in a second. We just take the number, the percent number, we move it 2 decimal places to the left. Yes, agreed. If you can memorize this one is easy. But like I said, I get too many kids that forget. They move it to the right. Why would they do that? Because one of these, we're also going to move it to the right. Now, the one we move to the left, kids just can't keep that straight in their heads. Yes. The decimal percent. The other way. But like I said, it's so easy that kids don't bother to write it down on a resource card. They're like, that's easy. We just move it 2 places. They just forget which way to move it. So if you write it down on a resource card, then you'll never. And an example. Drop any extra zeros. You'll see what that means here in a second. We good? Steps written down? Yes. All right, here's your example. Percent to a decimal. I guess there's a step 0, which is erase the percent symbol, right? We just take the number 40. We move the decimal place twice to the left, so we get
0.4.
right? .40 would be there. This is the drop any extra zeros. We just don't need that extra zero. So 0.4. Okay?
Mhm.
It already has a decimal place. Sometimes kids are like, I don't know what to do. It already has a decimal. It already is. I literally will have kids that will tell me it's already a decimal. It's a decimal percent.
We dropped the percent.
You move it
No, we still follow the rule, which is we got to move it 2 places. So I need to take this decimal right here and move it 1, 2 places. That's going to give me 0.082. So for those who come, well, it already has a decimal. It's a decimal percent, or it's a percent with a decimal. To turn it into a true decimal number, we've got to move it 2 places to the left. Like, wait a minute, this is way easier than the previous. Okay, but you got to remember to move it to the left. Seems like an easy thing, but it ends up being the most missed thing. All right, 16, move it 2 places, you get 0.16. 125, yes, I'm using the same numbers over and over again, right? 2 places, you get 1.25. How many pennies in $1.25?
I don't know.
Right there, 125. All right, do box 6, please.
Is there not something extra that's
Somewhat. Okay?
Yep, done.
All right, first one, final answer is?
0.2.
Second one, the final answer is?
0.205.
How would we actually read that?
0.205.
0 and
205,000.
205. Okay. We good? Do we need to do another one? We got this.
Got it.
I agree. All right, for those who actually did box 7, there's your answers. Okay. I will absolutely positively, I will put this on the test and I will have kids miss this. And they're like, well, the answer had too many zeros, so I thought I needed to go to the right. Right. They'll see all of these zeros and they'll think, well, it couldn't possibly be this. It must be, I'm doing it wrong. And they'll move it to the right and say it's 80 or something like that. All right. 2 left. All right. Decimal to a percent. Write this down. Here, it's the opposite. Hey, instead of going to the left, you go to the right. And this is where I'll get plenty of kids like, I don't need to write this down. I'll just remember I move it to the right instead of the left. No, you won't remember it. You'll forget it. Right? Only takes you, I don't know, 60 seconds to write this whole thing down. It only takes you 60 seconds to put this and an example on your resource card to get an easy question, always right. No math involved, just moving a decimal place. I'll have plenty of kids that don't take that advice and they'll get these wrong. I'm almost willing to bet that Landon will get these wrong.
Yeah.
Because he will refuse to put this on a resource card.
Why never?
Exactly. That's what. No, you made some last year.
With the formula.
Yeah, those nobody shows up well formulas from those days, and it's worse this year. Last year there's probably 8 formulas. This year there's 15.
What Jackson did.
Take the number, move the decimal place 2 places to the right, add a percent symbol. So this one's slightly different because we got to add a percent symbol. But it's still pretty simple. Here we go. To turn a decimal into percent, you move the decimal place 2 places to the right. 1, 2. Add a percent symbol in your number. 25%. This is also why when you take the test and I say you got I don't know, you got 25 out of 100 right, and I'm like, okay, grab your calculators, figure out what you got. You divide 25 by 100, you get 0.25, and I say, what'd you get? And you go, oh, I got it, or I got 25%. That's what you're doing. All right. Don't panic, you got whole numbers, it's still the same thing. I move the decimal place 2 places to the right, 1, 2. Once again, I'll have kids that they're not comfortable. They're like, well, I kind of got a smaller number, and they move it to the left for some reason. Change a decimal to percent, you move it 2 places to the right. 1.62 turns into 162 with a percent symbol. 162%. That's pretty good grade on the test. I better have given a lot of extra credit or I've made a mistake, right? All right, 100. I'll get someone that says, well, it just doesn't make any sense. Why would I move it 2 places to the right? I better get a smaller number. They'll say it's 1%. 100 is actually, it's not 100%. See what I mean? It's not intuitive. What's this as a percent? See what I mean? I don't know if we want to argue that he's the smartest kid in the class. He can't even get this intuitively. What's the answer? Which way are we moving it? You don't move it to the left. You move it to the right. What is that percent? It's not 100%. It's not 1%.
It's not a percent.
Agreed. Turn it into a percent. Thank you. You see what I mean? I threw a seemingly easy thing, and I've already had people already shut down. Like, I'm not writing that down. That's too easy. And yet it took what, a minute for one person to say the right answer here? As always, I never hear you. What did you say from the start? 10,000%. Okay. Yet I had people say 1%, or people say 100%, 10%. I understand the confusion. You're not ready to say that could be something as large as 10,000%. Okay. It turns out it's 10,000%. So no, I didn't pick that one to make fun of people, but clearly you can forget what to do really easy, or you can get confused by the number that I give you. I mean, the procedure didn't change, yet something intuitively made you say, I don't want to move to the right, I want to move it to the left. It only took 2 slides. 10,000%. All right, redeem yourself. What's the answer?
52.
See it? You immediately get it wrong.
No, I wasn't doing my work, so.
I'm sure you guys that appropriately raised your hand. We're going to say the same. We move it 2 decimal places, you don't get 52%. You get 0.52%. Okay? That would be a very, very, very bad grade on a test. You didn't get 1 right. You got less than 1 right.
You got like half of
You got half of 1 right. A little bit more than half of 1 right. You put the first letter of your name, you got that correct, and everything else is wrong on your test.
Yeah, including the rest of your name.
Right. All right, do box 9, please.
You wrote your first name, not your last name, and then got everything else wrong.
You cheated and you copied the person's name to your left and you spelt their name wrong.
Why do you do that? You're like, oh, I'm still copying out. I'm gonna write their name too. Hello.
That's how long it should take you. First one, the answer is?
58%.
And the second one?
520%.
All right, now you're catching on. All right. Just be careful, and I'm making a big deal, and justifiably so. Every year I get kids that will get this wrong. They get tricked by the numbers. They're just not willing to follow the rules. All right, last one. Believe it or not, these are challenging. All right, fractions to percents. Right, fractions to percents. All right, write this down.
You just divide it.
First off, you need to convert the fraction to a decimal. So that's the division. That's the long division, by the way. So this one absolutely requires a bit more work. Once you've converted that fraction to a decimal, then you follow the rule for decimal percent, 2 places to the right. What?
I can't remember if you already said this last year, but can we just take if it's like a number?
Yeah, I know what he's about to say. He's saying he's going to say something like, if it's 4 over 100, do I actually need to do any work there?
Well, like, can you convert?
Hold on. Do I need to do any work for 4 over 100?
Yeah. You can do it in your head most of the time.
Well, percents are a number out of 100. This one's already out of 100, so the answer is 4%. So what he's asking is if I had 4 over 20, could I just multiply the top and the bottom by 5 and be done? There's an alternate method. This is the alternate method. The problem is, as soon as I change this to a 21, your alternate method doesn't work. So the true answer is sure you can do that, but it only happens occasionally. And it's only when the denominators are friendly numbers like 100 or 1 or 20 or 5 or 25 or 50. And that only happens infrequently. Or 1,000. Right. All right, so here's how it works. Right? We got to do long division. Just remember, for me, it's always chopping the tree down. What falls to the inside is the top number. So we got to divide 3 by 4. I'll just do that math for you real quick, 0.75. Now it's a decimal. Now we follow the rule for changing a decimal to a percent. Once again, it's a simple rule, but it's easy to forget. We move the right or left. We move the 2 places to the right, so we get 75%. Okay? This is how, and this is also why, sneakily, I always write every single person's answer or score on a test as a fraction. What I'm really doing is I'm getting you to practice turning a fraction to a decimal and a decimal to a percent. Okay? I was in a college class and a teacher college class. I forget what the class was. It was something ridiculously dumb. And we got a test back. And you're kind of cliquish in college. You only hang out with the cool kids, right? And so I'm only hanging out with the math people because we're the coolest. And so I'm sitting there in a row with, and these are all future teachers. And I'm sitting in this row, and there's nothing but math teachers in my row. And behind us, we got some elementary teachers, right? And not to cast aspersion on them, but I will. And we get a test back, and all the math teachers were all looking at our grades, and we're like, okay, whatever. And then we hear from these elementary teachers behind us, hey, you math people, you guys must have calculators. And we're like, well, yeah, how many do you want? I got multiple calculators in my bag. And because some classes you could use a scientific calculator, some you could use a graphing calculator, some you had to have a dumb calculator. So I had 3 calculators always in my bag. And so I'm looking around and I immediately say, well, what kind of calculator do you want? And then all of a sudden I'm thinking about, why is this person asking? And the test was out of 50 points. And so it would be something like, I don't know, I got a 40 out of 50. So what's your grade?
That is
80%.
And they were asking me for a calculator. So I just said that that's such a ridiculous question right there, that when I become a teacher, that I'm going to, all the students that pass me, I'm always going to write this to force them to be used to doing that calculation, because I don't want you to be an adult and not be able to convert 40 over 50 to a percent. Agreed. All right, so 4 divided by 5, we do the long division, we get 0.8, so we get
80%.
80%, right? I'm gonna move it 2 decimal places. There will be, this one right here will cause problems. I'll have kids, absolutely, they're not thinking it through and say 8%. But remember, it's not 1 decimal place, it's 2. Okay? If I put 0.08, I don't get anybody miss that. They'll say 8%. But when I put 0.8, a lot of kids will want to write 8%. They're just getting lazy. Yeah.
Could it be a run-on decimal?
Can be a repeating decimal. That's the next thing we're going to talk about. That's the but here. So the but here is that occasionally we can get a repeating decimal, right? So for instance, 1 divided by 3, we get this 0.3 repeating. Okay, the rule doesn't change. We move it 2 decimal places. So what's the answer?
Oh, it's 33.33.
And then we just say 33.3 repeating percent. Okay. Right. Rounding, notice I rounded, so I put the approximation symbol. You can certainly use the bar notation if you want. I don't think there would ever be a test where I would mark you wrong if you rounded, right? So I would always encourage you to round. But please, if you do round, make sure you use the approximation symbol. All right, do box 11, please. Box 11.
Approximation symbol.
Man, say toy boat 3 times real fast.
Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat. No, toy boat, toy boat, toy
Pass.
boat. Toy boat, toy boat, toy boat.
Toy boy.
All right.
Toy boy.
I have no idea why that particular 2 words you cannot say fast, but you can't.
Whoa. Topo.
You say it once.
Topo.
Toy boy. It's toy boat, not
Toy
toy
boat.
I have no idea. You cannot say that more than 1 time.
I get it.
You gotta be fast. No.
Okay, for me, it's not
But I'll survive my mom.
I figured out how to see him.
Divided my body.
No, yeah.
Here's the tree. And the tree falls over. The 5 falls on the inside, 9 on the outside.
They're being
Hey, Captain, this is being recorded.
Hello.
No, we're not doing that. All right. So I already had at least 2 people put the numbers in the wrong spots. It can be done. I think of this as a tree. The tree falls down to the right because right is correct, right? Correct, right. That means the 7's on the inside, 20's on the outside. 20 doesn't go into 7, but it does go into 70 3 times. Remainder 1. So 30, 35%.
Yes, sir.
This one ends up being a repeating decimal. What's the repeating decimal?
5.5.
Whole bunch of 5s. So for me, I'm going to round. Now, when you round, that's going to turn that last decimal into a 6, right? Because it would just do nothing but a string. So when I round this, after I move it 2 decimal places, 55.55555. So for me, I'm just going to say 55.6%. And it's rounded.
If it's a mixed number, you just convert it in proper fraction.
First. Well, there's other people that say I don't need to do that. I can convert the fraction, the proper fraction part to a decimal, and then just add the whole number in front of it. You can do that as well too. All right, I do have one last thing. It's going to be for homework. You're going to see it. You're not going to know what to do. This one is really ugly. Okay. All right. So last one. It's a challenge, right? I want you to convert that to a decimal.
Oh, that's
Wait, first I'm guessing you have to convert it to a percent, then a decimal.
Wait a minute, it's already a fraction.
It's both of them already.
How do you convert a fraction to a decimal?
Fraction.
It's
Right.
so
You
the
divide.
percent is 0.375, and then you have to move the decimal over this way twice.
I'll show you 2 methods.
That
One
would
is
be
intuitive, one is not.
0.00375.
I could turn this immediately into a decimal and then move it 2 places. Or I can use the definition of percent. What's the definition of percent? Okay. So the first method requires what? Long division. There is another method that doesn't require that at all. Watch this. This is pretty slick. You ready? This is only for when you have a percent that is a fraction. What's percent mean? So put this over 100. Okay?
Yeah, but it would be
Put it over 100, yes? Remember was it last chapter? I can't remember. 2 chapters ago or last chapter. We saw fractions that look like this, right?
Yeah.
So we simply put 100 over,
3/8.
no, we put 100 over 1 and do a copy dot flip.
Oh.
We're going to copy the 3/8. Watch me. Copy the 3/8, put a dot, and write what? 1 over 100.
Well, guys.
Okay? So I'm going to copy the top, put it over, right. The original start is to put the 100 over 1. Okay? Now I do a copy, dot, flip. Now multiply straight across, and you tell me if that's easier or harder.
800 over 100.
So you get 3 over 800, and there you go.
Oh.
That was pretty simple. So converting a percent to a fraction. Percent to a fraction.
Okay, so it says, express each percent as a proper fact. Oh!
See what I mean?
I thought it was turned into a decimal.
Oh, turning to a decimal, your method would have been way easier than that, right? Okay. So I don't know how many of these did I give you tonight for homework?
You gave us 22.
No, like this.
Five of those.
5 of these?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't think it was that many. That I gave you a fraction as a percent?
Nope.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. That's how it's done. Who's lost on this? All right. So give me a fraction. Anyone you want to top your
7
head.
over 8 over.
7 over 8%.
Just go to the next one.
Step number 1. Put it over 100. Erase the percent. Put this 100 over 1. Now do a copy dot flip. So I'm going to copy,
8
put a dot,
1 over
and then multiply straight across.
8 over
7 over 800. And you're done.
Now, what if it was a whole number and then
Turning to an improper
A whole number in a what?
fact.
You mean a
It's
mixed
it's
number?
a mixed number.
Change it to an improper fraction and do this procedure. So let's do one. So what if it was 4.5%?
You
3 and 1 over 5?
Oh, I'm going to do this one. 4.5%. Change that to an improper fraction.
Yeah.
2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. Over 2.
Oh, I was looking at the 1 before.
Put it over 100. Put it over 1.
So it'd be 1, 9
So
over
it'd be
200.
200 times 200.
9.
9 over 200.
Yeah.
I
How
was
does that
saying
work? Like,
That's trying to pull it up. That's the easiest.
Where did I lose you? No, I didn't lose you everywhere.
That's the easiest thing we've done today.
I changed 4.5 into 9 over 2. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9, 9 over 2. Percent means over 100, so I put it over 100. Put the 100 over 1, and then do the copy dot flip. Yes. Yeah, is there anything going 9 and 200? Yeah. All right, any questions? We got about 4 minutes, 3 minutes left. 3 minutes
are
left.
we going to get our homework out and start doing that?
No, there's not enough time to do it.
Okay. So the chapter, this is going to be around.
Oh, when they
So do it.
drove the bus. He was like,
This times that, plus that, over this. You're going to have a multiplication table in front of your face in every test you take, yes? Because you shouldn't be thinking about this. What's the answer? How about 20 over 3? 20 over 3, yes?
20 over 3.
Over 100.
Over 100 over 1. And then
And do a copy dot flip.
it would be 20 over 3. And then
20, yes. You already see the pattern. Now you can reduce that one. So that one can be reduced to 1 over 15. So 20 over 300. All right. E-learners, any questions? I had a bunch of those. E-learners, any questions?
Donovan, any questions?
No one's here today.
Dang it. Of course, Donovan should have the last one.